episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks. Usual suspects, myself, and we got a birthday boy again. Another week, another birthday. Happy birthday to
look
Tim.
At that. Thank you very much. How are we?
Oh, we're doing all right. How was your birthday?
Been good so far. I can't complain. It's been a whole weekend of celebrating, as it should be.
Okay. Anything worth noting, or was it all TMI?
Just telling out with the fam, did a little work party, went downtown, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I feel a year older, definitely feel older.
It's just your 21st, but for the, seventh time?
Yeah, so sixth time, yeah.
Sixth
27
time,
now, so yeah. It's just my anniversary of my 21st birthday. That's what I'm at. Once you get past 21, the birthdays don't really matter.
Yeah.
They're just your anniversary of your 21st birthday. So I got to celebrate my 6th anniversary of 21st birthday today.
Yeah, your birthdays are fun up until 21, and then after that, it's like, oh, well, now I'm 30. Oh, now I'm 40. Oh, now I'm 50.
I just don't want to keep aging.
Has anyone invented like time travel so we can go backwards yet, or is
that would be nice? That would be nice, but I don't think they've gotten that far yet, and as far as I've known.
Yeah. But so for this episode, we are doing interior offensive linemen.
Yes, we are.
The big boys up front.
Very important. And I'm not gonna lie, I was looking over my notes from last year, and I saw that I weighed everyone out, and I had the amount of Dakotas and weight that I had last year. So this year I forgot to do the weigh-in. So
the weigh-ins, yeah.
we won't know how many Dakotas made up my top 10.
It was like 7 Stanley Cups of
34 and a half, actually. I'm looking.
34 and a half. How heavy is the Stanley Cup?
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, it's 34 and a half pounds. That's what the Stanley Cup is.
I was going to say, there's no way someone weighs 34 Stanley Cups.
No.
Yeah.
But my top 10 equaled 16.35 Dakotas.
Wow. That's pretty big.
Yeah, pretty hefty. It's a lot of Dakotas.
Yeah, before we get into that, though, real quick, obviously, since we were last on, the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup. So Tampa is having a goddamn renaissance of sports right now.
Tom Brady just improves all sports. You thought it was football, but he just improves everything.
It's insane. And then the Bucks won Game 5, so they're up 3-2 on the Suns, and it's looking. I mean, I thought the Suns would have more energy, more firepower than the Bucks, and that's how they would win, by scoring more and getting after it. But I'll tell you, they're playing. I mean, Drew Holiday had a nice game. Game 5, he redeemed himself a little bit.
Yeah, he has had a tough
really,
playoffs.
really well.
Giannis looks
I'm happy.
good.
I'm happy for Giannis because he's dealt with a lot of bullshit in his career with being a multiple MVP winner and not being able to do anything in the playoffs, and for him to be having a an finals is
he's stuck with Milwaukee. I like when they stick with the small towns. Like he didn't go. Yeah, he didn't want to join an established team already. He built it around him, and one game away from winning the finals.
Yeah, and I mean, for all the sports betting and number crunching and network dollars, these Phoenix and Milwaukee are not big time markets for the finals for who the NBA actually wants to be playing for money, money wise. But I gotta say, it's been a very entertaining finals. Like, it's exceeded my expectations. All the games have been close. All come down to the last few minutes. So I'm excited. I obviously wish the Sixers were in it, but
well, it's just proving more and more that this was the year to win it.
Yeah, so we'll see on Tuesday if the Bucks can close it out at home. But
which I do think is going to happen. I think it was after Game 4. I was like, you know what? I think the Bucks figured out how to beat the Suns, and they're playing more physical. They've picked up the defensive intensity. Middleton's been hot. He's been shooting real nice, giving them that was second option on the offensive end. And I thought that was the moment where I was like, I don't think the Suns are going to get another game.
That I just, for them to be down 16 and then to come back and win the game.
Yeah.
And honestly, the play at the end where Drew Holiday missed a shot, stole it on the other end to get it back, and then alley-ooped it to Giannis, who got fouled after and still made the bucket, is like, I think the Bucks are going to be in control. They just seem like they have a better handle now than they did like the first 2 games. So
I did think they were the better team coming into the series. I was surprised when they lost the first 2. But again, it was in Phoenix. They went in Phoenix Game 5 and won a big one. Now they get to go home, and we'll see. I do think the Bucks are going to win it in 6.
we shall see. But back to the football, which we are just under 53 days. I think it's 53 now. So that's pretty exciting. Definitely, looking forward to. I mean, we have college football too coming up soon, so we're gonna have plenty of football in our hands. It'll be
Lots
great.
of football. It's a good time of year. It's a good time of year.
So starting off, Tim.
Yeah.
Who are your honorable mentions for our top 10 interior offensive linemen of the 2021 season?
So this was tough.
Right? Like this list was hard.
It was, because there's a lot of young guys in the interior that are kind of coming up. I noticed doing this list is it seems like it's a trend now that you're seeing interior offensive linemen drafted higher. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of guys again, like there's centers getting drafted in the first round almost every year. It's very common to see. Quinton Nelson, Brandon Sheriff, two guys on my list were, I think, top 6, top 5 picks. Just recently, interior offensive line was always a position that I think got ignored in the draft, but now the value has been really put on. And it shows with the young guys upcoming and, these big prospects starting to make a name for themselves this year. And that's what made this list so tough. It's like I had a whole bunch of up and coming guys that I liked, and it made me take a couple of the stalwarts off. So one of them will be my honorable mention. Actually, 2 of them I'll give you because I'm a nice guy. Okay. I went 2 veteran centers. It was Jason Kelsey and Rodney Hudson. Okay. I had them both on my list last year. They were 3 and 4 actually. And Kelsey just, it's hard to be optimistic about his future when he was considering retiring this season. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say he had a bad season, because I believe he was still on the Pro Bowl team this year. The team more of was just a complete disaster. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that this was anywhere near one of his better seasons. So you definitely see a decline. I think he's on the way out. So it was hard to get him in there. And I just didn't think the last season really justified a top 10 finish for him. And then Rodney Hudson, he was different. I was thinking more, he was close. Yeah. But it was, again, just older. He's going to a bit different system, which I think he'll excel in. But at the same time, the Raiders had a very strong offensive line when he was there, and I think that helped a lot playing next to Gabe Jackson and Trent Brown. But those are 2 of my honorable mentions, and then the other one I had, he's just won a Super Bowl. He was number 10 on my list last year, and it was just more of the renaissance by these younger guys. So Ali Marpitt was also my honorable mention. Wow. I wanted to put him on there because obviously they look great. Brady obviously didn't get sacked at all. Yeah. He did such a good job blocking that Brady got to play an entire season on a torn meniscus. It's really impressive. But I ultimately took them all for some of the younger guys. So those are my honorable mentions.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, when you were going through your honorable mentions there, I decided I was going to swap one of mine for the 10th spot.
Last minute changing. Look at that.
I was looking at stats, and while his stats are still really consistent and impressive, I was looking at the age and some of the other players I'd rather have at that spot. I had Rodney Hudson at 10, and then seeing that you didn't have him on your list either gave me a little more confidence to take him off. But I mean, the only thing that was keeping him on there for me was the fact that he's given up 1 sack per season for 10 straight seasons. Like, that's insane. Yeah, to only give up 10 sacks in your whole career of a 10-year career so far is mind-boggling. But I agree with you. He definitely had a down year. As did one of my other honorable mentions. Hate to say it, but Jason Kelsey did not make my list. He just got way too many penalties last year. It was very uncharacteristic of him. I mean, he played injured, you could tell. Yeah. But like you said, he on the verge of retirement off and on. And I think this will be his last year and then he'll retire. But we say that every year since 4 years ago. So, yeah. But he was number 3 on our list last year, just because that was arguably one of his best years. And then this year, slight decline, but still him and Rodney Hudson are still the 2 and 3 best centers. And then someone else I put on my list, I think, is the number 1 center. But those 2. And then Ryan Kelly, the center for the Colts, I also had as an honorable mention. Really good player. Him and his buddy, who I'll mention later, 2 really good interior linemen. helping that Colts team thrive, and hopefully they keep Carson Wentz healthy. But those are my honorable mentions. So with that being said, well, who do you have for numero 10?
I gotta be honest. Your transition game is on point because my number 10 is Ryan Kelly.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so I had him at 9.
I thought about it multiple times, but
I had him at 9 last year. It's actually funny because my 2 honorable mentions being Rodney Hudson, Jason Kelsey, those are 2 stalwart superstar centers that have been dominant for a while. Yeah. My 9 and 10 with Ryan Kelly, they're 2 younger centers. I think they're both under. I know Kelly's 27. I think the other guy I have is like 25. So I kind of was looking more for the future and, the changing of the guard. So that's kind of why I put the 2 young guys right in my by the bottom of the top 10, knocking out Hudson and Kelsey. But Ryan Kelly, I mean, the Colts have a really good offensive line. It's part of the reason why I think Carson Wentz is going to do pretty good over there. He's going to be protected. Kelly's been a Pro Bowler the last 2 years. Played 15 games this season. Rarely, he had one season where he played 7 games, but other than that, he plays majority of this time. He's very durable. Him and I think it helps a lot playing next to Quinton Nelson. That's a deadly double team combo they have there. Oh, yeah. And listen, I mean, Rivers is not a mobile quarterback. He was going to need time in the pocket, and their run game really did well. Like their running back stepped up. Jonathan Taylor had a great rookie season, and I think a lot of it had to do with the strength of that offensive line. So, very good young player. Like I said, he's, I think, the next era of top centers in the league. And I believe he was a first-round pick, too, going off to what we were saying. Like, it's just the value has changed recently. You could see them. So I went with Ryan Kelly, and I'm optimistic. I think he's going to have a good year. I think the Colts offense in general with Wentz is going to have a good year. So I'm optimistic in his future.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I must have rotated 5 different people out of this 10 spot. And so, like I said, I had Rodney Hudson, and then we had a last-minute substitution. Decided after looking at what college he went to, I had to put a Virginia Tech Hokie in my list. So coming in number 10, I have Wyatt Teller, the Browns guard.
I didn't know he was a Hokie.
Yeah, neither did I. What's there to say about that Cleveland rushing game was out of this world. Nick Chubb is a phenomenal player in his own right, and so is Kareem Hunt, but those two, that Browns line gave them literally a clear pass, said, hey, go run somebody over. Kareem Hunt, go catch a ball, on a screen and just take it to the house. Like they were such an improvement, and they all played so well together. So it's hard not to put that whole line on this list, but
that's the best line in football, honestly, in my opinion.
It's just there, and he was taken 2018 draft, so he's still very young and already this talented. So
I think this was his breakout year. I heard the guy's name before this year, and now I'm seeing Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb just run all over with him steamrolling everyone over in between before.
Yeah, I mean, PFF said he had a run blocking grade of 93.6, which is apparently one of the best they've ever seen since they've started recording. So, like I said, that run game was insane. It was historic last year. So,
I agree with you with everything you said. I actually I think you're sleeping on him, put him at 10. I have him higher up in this list. Okay. And it's pretty much goes to everything you just said. Like everything you said, I don't feel like it's the 10th guy. That sounds like a top 5 guy.
I think one of his teammates is a little more talented, so I had him higher. But
fair enough. So my number 9, and like I said, my 9 and 10 were 2 young centers up and coming. Mm-hmm. And this guy, I believe, again, he was a first-round pick, 2018 in that draft as well. So it goes back to what I was saying with the being drafted a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Young, 25, but he's just made the Pro Bowl this year. He only had 1 penalty, and he's missed 3 games in his entire 3-year career. So he's durable. Guy goes out there, competes, and he looks like he's going to be, one of the solid offense linemen for years to come. And that is Frank Ragnall, the center from Detroit.
Okay. I had him on my list last year, I believe, but he did not make the cut this year.
He did not. I see. He wasn't on my list last year.
Okay.
I didn't.
He
Really
was number
give
10,
him
I
a lot
believe, on
of.
mine.
I didn't give him a lot of consideration, to be honest with you. But this year, you kind of heard you knew his name going in. Like obviously he was a big draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard when you play for Detroit. No one cares about Detroit.
Right.
So it's really hard to kind of stand out. But between him and I like Penny Sewell, I think they got a nice little line for their yearly rebuild that they do. So it seems like they're getting a foundation there in Detroit to build off of.
Yeah, he's a shining star on that not shining star of a team, to put it lightly. But yeah, I like I was saying, like the talent, it's harder for us to do stuff like this where the stats are not super reliable because there's not a lot of stats recorded. It's more like, how many pressures did they give up, or how many sacks, how many penalties, what were the team stats as far as rushing yards, passing yards, but that's all so hard to understand unless you actually see the plays of the games. So it's a lot of looking at body of work and, just seeing what their peers say about them, seeing what experts of those teams who they follow. Because I feel like especially for like Jason Kelsey, as an example, last year he had a phenomenal year, or 2 years ago he had a phenomenal year. And then last year, like we said, a little down. But I feel like a lot of people who report on the NFL as a whole and not the Eagles didn't look at him as a top 3 center anymore, or top 5 center, which I think is a little disrespectful. But also it's like, I think it's because they're not focusing in on them every time, just like we would have certain players not as high because we're not able to watch them, every Sunday. So these lists are tough. That's why I didn't have Ragnall on my list. But
I mean, going off
phenomenal. He's a good player. There's a lot of good young interior linemen. So
well, going back to what you were saying, like one of the metrics I use when I do these rankings, especially for offensive linemen, is the team success. Like if they're running backs, like just what we said with the Browns, if the running backs are having great years and the quarterback's not getting sacked and not getting hit a lot, I'm going to give credit to the offensive line for making that happen. They start the whole engine on offense. And I mean, the center position is a young position. It's a very well represented young position with Ryan Kelly. Obviously, I talked about Frank Ragnall. Another guy who was in my honorable mention was Eric McCoy, the Saints center. He's another young guy that they look like they're going to be stars for a very long time. Yeah,
I think it's so, like you said, it's hard to evaluate sometimes, but yeah, I don't no arguments here with that pick. It's the bottom half is I think the top like 5, 6 are a little more clear cut, but this range, as it usually is in our rankings lists, the latter half of like 7 to 10 are usually, you could have 10 players substituted in. So, but so my number 9, guy I had on my list last year, hailing from the college. I don't know why I said college. He went to Indiana. He was a Hoosier.
With the college stats are thrown around. You can clearly tell that.
Look, these linemen don't have a lot of stats. We gotta.
I know. I was just gonna say you can clearly tell you don't have many stats to go along with this.
Wait, we're throwing out the colleges. 6'5", 323 pounds. No, he Titans guard Roger Saffold. Another really talented line up there with the Browns is the Titans. I mean, just look at King Henry, how phenomenal of a player he is. I mean, he's not even from Earth, so that's a different conversation entirely, but he has a very good line to help him as well. And you can tell, you can kind of see like which players really benefit from, having a good line, and then which ones struggle when their line isn't good or their line is injured. And I feel like if Saffold went out, as would if his tackle Taylor Lewan was out, I mean, they didn't skip a beat, and I think he was part of that because he had a strong year again. And he's been around for a while. I didn't realize he was drafted in 2010. I thought he was
on. Well, he's another guy. I mean, you mentioned Derrick Henry already, but he was the guy blocking for Todd Gurley.
He was on the Rams.
And I mean, look, he left. I want to say it was the year it was the off season after the Super Bowl. he signed with the Titans after that, and the Rams have struggled offensively since then. I mean, obviously Todd Gurley got hurt and he kind of fell apart, but
he signed with the Titans in 2019. So
yeah, and like that Rams offensive line has seen a decline since he's left.
Yeah.
And no, he's good. I didn't have him in my top 10, but he was a guy I was considering. Mostly because, I mean, like you said, like Derrick Henry, when he's succeeding in having 2,000 yards, you can't ignore the offensive line helping there. And he did the same thing when he was with the Rams. And you see the difference. The offense for the Rams was a juggernaut when he was there. And I'm not saying he was the only reason, but losing him was a big loss for them. And I think the Titans have just excelled. They've made a big jump since he's come out.
Oh, yeah.
So, no, I like Saffold. I didn't ultimately go with him, but I was considering him. I did like him. I went a little bit younger on my list. So my number 8 is a guy playing on a new team this year. Signed a big contract, got paid. Hasn't missed a single game in his 5-year career. He was top 5 for me last year. He was literally number 5. I'm high on him. I know we dropped a little bit on the list, but I think this was more of other players stepping up than it was him really stepping back, because I really think he's going to have a good year tomorrow, and I like next year, and I like the situation he's in. So I had at number 8 Joe Fooney, formerly with the Patriots.
Tooney at number 8.
Now Kansas City Chiefs' new offensive guard.
Can't say I agree with that, but go ahead.
I mean, he's easily one of the best pass blocking guards in the NFL, and now he's going to the most pass friendly offense in the NFL. I think it's a match made in heaven for both player and team. So he's always been solid.
Dropped him. I don't know how you dropped him from 5 all the way to 8.
That's it. And then I wouldn't say drop. I would say other guys just jumped ahead of him. Like, it really wasn't anything against him. He's still a stud, but other guys had better years and they really excelled. Plus, the good dude's very durable. I think he had 1 penalty last year. He's very super consistent. You know what you're going to get. And, he's been top notch for a very long time. I'm surprised he's never been a Pro Bowler, which I was surprised to hear that.
Really?
Yeah, he's never been in the Pro Bowl. Found that
no way.
Now I'm looking at it right now. What do you think? I'm lying to you?
No, honestly, I think a common thing with linemen is they either go to all the Pro Bowls or they go to one. It's very weird how that.
Well, I think offensive line is the biggest one where a name gets you on these Pro Bowl teams more than anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't know a ton about offensive linemen. But I scratched that. They said he had 1 penalty last year. He had 3 holding penalties last year. But he's really kept his penalties down every year. Yeah. The year before 2019, he didn't have a single one. And the Patriots kind of, their offense made it a change towards the end of Brady when he was there. It was more of a run-heavy scheme, and the offensive line, him and Shaq Mason were a big part of that, and David Andrews. Yeah. And I think he was the best one on that offensive line during that era, and I think he's going to do a great job in Kansas City. And I have to think that he's going to be on a Pro Bowl this year.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that they needed line help. You saw what happened to Patrick Mahomes, Zero.
Oh, yeah.
He was running for his life 70% of the snaps. So
it's a perfect marriage of team and player, because he's going to go to a situation that emphasizes his strengths and pass protection. And like you said, the Chiefs just need people to block. They just don't have offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So who'd you have at number 8?
So number 8, I had a 6'4", 307-pound Super Bowl champion.
Oh.
And if anyone who's listening to this episode, please message us, because I have no idea where this college is, or I've never heard of it. He's from Hobart University. Hobart. I've never heard of Hobart.
Hobart makes like commercial dishwashers. That's the only thing I know about Hobart.
He went to school for dishwashing.
Anyways, I know there's a company named after that college. That's all I know.
Anyways, yeah. So I have Tampa Bay Bucks guard Ali Marpitt, who you had as an honorable mention, which is surprising because I'm usually the Tampa Bay Bucks hater, and you're usually a little more lenient with them. But
trust me, I heard your voice. Oh, it doesn't matter. He won the Super Bowl. It's a team game. He's one of 53 people that won the Super Bowl last year. How can you give crap to anyone on Tampa Bay saying they had a bad year? They all had a good year. I don't care if it's a team sport. Every single individual player on the Buccaneers had a good year. They won the Super Bowl.
Part of that was I looked at a lot of things where, I mean, we were talking about last year in our running backs episode how Leonard Fournette, we're like, yeah, he's probably going to get traded halfway through because there's no way he's going to stay on the Jaguars or they're not going to bring him back on that contract. And then he went to Tampa, and they had a nice like rotation with him and Ronald Jones, and they were bullying people in the playoffs. And part of that was, you know, players on this like their line is also in that realm of like, you know, when let's consider a fully healthy offensive line. We talking Browns, Titans, Eagles, Cowboys, and the Bucks are in that too. Like their line is very good. So yeah, I have him from Hobart University or University of Hobart. Ali Marpitt.
I have no idea where that is.
I don't know. Somebody tell us.
I had nothing to get. Obviously, I didn't have on my list, but I thought about him. I had him on my list last year. I like the other guys I put on there a little bit better. And I was really thinking because when he got hurt, he missed 3 games in the middle of the season. The Bucs struggled. They did struggle when he was gone. He was a big part of that. And you know, you have a very immobile quarterback. He's the greatest ever, but he's still very immobile. He needs to be protected.
Greatest ever as an immobile quarterback.
Yeah. And with the running backs, you said they were successful in the run game with, you know, just a stable of different running backs. Like I don't think any of them are really superstars. I think, you know, they just had a strong offensive line that made it easy for them. So no complaints on that one. My number 7. So a guy you actually already mentioned foolishly way too early.
Really?
He was second team All-Pro. He was the guy that, you know, like I said, he came out of nowhere. I didn't really know who he was beforehand, but he's arguably the best.
Oh, that's always good. You have no idea who he is, but you're going to put him on his list. Good to hear.
No. Well, now I know about him. I didn't know about him last year. That's why he wasn't on my list last year. So I think he's the best run blocking offensive guard in football, and that's going to be Wyatt Teller.
All right.
So listen, we already talked about it. I won't get too much into it because a lot of what you said, I agree with. I think you actually ranked him too low, and including everything you said, it sounds like a top 5 guy, top 7 guy from everything you mentioned about him.
Sure.
But obviously very strong season. He's young. They struggled when he was hurt. When he missed time last year, they struggled a lot. He came back and there was an immediate difference. He's a catalyst of the best offensive line in football and the best run game in football. And he's the guy, who deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I gave you all my reasons when I had him at 10, and I think he's only getting better. So for 10 and 7, I don't really have any real gripes with that. So, but yeah, I mean, very good player, obviously. So my number 7, and I know I'm going to get an earful from you, but
you've
number
been
7.
Due one. I've been agreeing with you too much. You're due for an earful.
Yeah, number 7. I have a player that did not play last year. And well, actually, did he? I think he might have played one game at the end. I can't remember. I think he played game 17. Anyway, or game 16. Eagles guard Brandon Brooks. Now, I know we had this discussion about,
He didn't play at all last year.
I thought he played the last game because I remember they were talking about trying to get him on the field for a little bit. I could have sworn he played the last game.
I don't think so. He
regardless.
Yeah, whatever.
So yeah, we had that big argument with Vita Vea. How I was like, oh, he only played 5 games, blah blah blah. Well, here's the difference. Brandon Brooks has been in the league since 2012. Established guard when he is healthy, one of the best, no questions asked for the past 5-6 years, whatever. Obviously, he's had a lot of injury concerns the past few seasons. But even going into last year, when we were doing our rankings, that was, I think, it must have been like a week or two before we did our list that he tore his ACL or MCL, whatever it was. And we were like, we're not going to put him on our list because he's obviously not going to play.
Yeah.
But if he didn't get injured, then he would have been top 5 for us. And I think that still holds true. He's got that talent. He's coming towards the regression part of his career in a couple seasons, I would say. Maybe this year, maybe next year. But like I said, if he's healthy this year, like it seems like he is, and he trains like an animal from what I've been seeing, like he uses like fighting, like Taekwondo or some shit is like a training thing. He'll be good. And I think 7 is a good spot because I'm not getting overly hyped for him because there's always that injury concern, but the talent itself speaks. So I had him at 7.
Actually, very interesting because I do have Brandon Brooks on my list. He's a little bit higher than 7.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what? Well, you know what? When we started, I was immediately regretting it because I was like, he's way too high. But I stuck with it. And I'll admit this was Eagles bias, and this was me being really optimistic that he's going to come back with no issues. Because I knew once we started doing this, I was like, that he's way too high. So I won't kill you on that.
As long as you're not like 2, and I think we'll be fine.
I mean, because it goes back to what you said. Like he is one of the best guards in football. Like he is easily top 5 when he plays. I'm a little worried now because now it's a couple major injuries. He already did it once, came back and didn't skip a beat. Mm-hmm. Now you're asking him to do it again with another major injury. So my optimism for him is a little bit lower, but I still like this guy. I'm very confident he's going to be back next year and he's going to be awesome. Yeah. The Vita Vea thing now, you're still an imbecile on that. Because the difference with Vita Vea and Brandon Brooks, sure, they both didn't play much. Brooks didn't play at all. But Vita Vea is young and he's ascending. Mm-hmm. Brandon Brooks, I have him ranked higher than you, but he's a concern in the future. I don't feel confident in his future as I do with a younger player like Vita Vea. So when Vita Vea plays 5 games, I'm not going to punish him because I know he's going to get better. Where Brooks, now you're a little worried. I have general concerns that, he might not be the same guy. I think he'll be okay, but it's a lot of injuries to come back from.
I look at it this way. Vita Vea, and I said this in our episode, I wasn't saying that he wasn't justified as being a top 10 defensive tackle. I said the talent's there. I just wasn't ready to crown him yet. When he plays the full season this year, hopefully, then we'll reevaluate, and I'm sure he'll be in my top 10. But
you know what? You'll just be late to the party. That's all it is. I'm already at the party, having a great time. You're just late to it. You haven't showed up yet.
I left the party early because I had to take care of some business.
You never showed up. No. You never showed up.
Yeah, okay. But this is the way I look at it. Players like Vita Vea who are super young, they have such a small sample size. So what we've seen is like very optimistic, but will it come to fruition? Will they be able to continue it for multiple years? Like, is he going to be able to be a top run stopping defensive tackle for 7+ seasons? We don't know. Whereas look at a player like Brandon Brooks, who's been in the league for 8-9 years. I've seen what he's been able to do, and I've seen the consistency. The only red flag is the injuries. So it's a different mentality, and I understand where you're coming from, where it's like, if I'm building a team, who do I want? Like, you would want to take a risk on a player like that who's really young and could end up being really talented and really good down the road. But the way I look at it is just, I know what I'm getting. You know what I mean? So that's my tea on that, my explanation.
You're just late to the party. That's all that really is.
All right. This is a garden center list, not a D tackle list. So let's get back to it. By the way, before we forget,
brought it up, by the way.
Before we forget, Brandon Brooks, hailing from Miami of Ohio, Redhawks, class of 2012.
Look at that. Oh, nice. Impressive. All right. So my number, I've let you speak your nonsense for long enough. Number 6. So my number 6 is actually a teammate of my number 7, Wyatt Teller. He was also a second-team All-Pro offensive guard last year. I believe he made the Pro Bowl as well.
Okay.
I honestly, what I find amazing about the Browns offensive line is I already went on a spiel how Wyatt Teller I think is the best run blocking offensive guard in football.
Sure.
But you could make an argument that my number 6, Joel Bitonio, is one of the best pass blocking offensive guards in football. Like, they just have such a diverse skill set in the offensive line where guys are just excellent in run blocking or pass blocking, and it all comes together really nicely. Joel Pietonio used to be a right tackle, so I think his pass blocking skills kind of transition nicely into the inside, and it's made the Browns the best offensive line in football. So yeah. I went with him, back-to-back teammates. I gave Bitonio the slight nod over Teller, kind of going back to whatever your ridiculous argument was. Bitonio's been around a little longer. I've seen him been good consistently. Teller, this was his first year I've seen. So yeah, you're right. I guess between the two of them, I know what I'm getting more with Bitonio because I've seen it longer, more consistent. Where
Right.
Teller more was, 1 year. I still feel I'm very high on Teller. I don't think he's going to start sucking, but I put him over Teller kind of just because he's been more consistent already. But they're both incredible. They are part of that the best offensive line in football. And I mean, he's a great pass blocker, but he can also run block pretty well. He only gave up 1 sack last year, 3 penalties. Just a really, really good offensive lineman.
I think that's pretty funny how you did that, because you're giving me shit for how low I ranked Wyatt Teller, but I have Joel Bitonio way higher than you. So now you're the one being disrespectful.
Wait, way higher. I had him at 6. I mean, where'd you put him? Like top 3? All right, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I mean, did you watch that Cleveland team last year?
I did. I had both of them in my top 10. I mean, I gave them the respect they deserve.
Yeah. All right, my number 6. Coincidentally, he was also my number 6 last year. Hailing from the University of Iowa, a former Hawkeye, drafted in 2015, Mr. Brandon Sheriff.
Ooh,
Sheriff.
I don't know about that.
I don't know how you want to pronounce it.
You're sleeping on him.
Sleeping at 6?
He's the top 3 guard. He's a top 3 interior offensive lineman. What are you talking about?
I mean,
he's been like a multiple time All Pro. The only time he's got an injury concern. I'll admit that, but that's the only thing against him. He's awesome. He's been awesome.
I mean, no complaints. I said the same thing last year. It was just I think he's top 5 talent. It's just a matter of he can't usually, like, he's been having problem staying healthy his whole career so far. So
okay, hold on, real fast. So I'm sorry, you said you had him at the same exact spot last year?
Yeah.
So last year, your main thing was he gets hurt and you're inconsistent. So he goes on to play the full season and go to he was an All Pro. He was first team All Pro and doesn't move on your list. He stays in the exact same spot after had an All Pro season.
I just have 5 linemen that I think are slightly better.
But the rationale doesn't make sense. He had probably his best year in his career and somehow doesn't move on your list.
I mean, 4 to 6, I could flip, no problem. So
I just don't understand how a guy has the best year of his career and doesn't move up. He doesn't improve.
I don't know what to tell you. It was a tough list.
Here we go. This is what we. I don't know what to tell you.
I'll pull the Leonard Williams card that you used. Oh, he plays on a bad team. Which I think Washington's actually not a bad team, but
Washington was in the playoffs last year. They probably had their best year with him of his career last year.
No, I'm not going to argue that. I think he is phenomenal, one of the best guards. But I think there are a couple players who just played slightly higher levels and have been and are healthy.
This is pretty questionable. You're saying healthy. The guy played all season and made the All Pro team.
Yeah, no, I'm not denying that. But okay. That's see, I like it when we have arguments. That's spice.
You can pretty much guarantee them every time. You don't use them logic enough. You just say things.
Do you have his PFF grade on hand? I just closed it out.
I don't know. I mean, because I have him later on my list, so I didn't have my stuff up for him.
Oh, classic. All right. Fair enough. So that was my number 6. We are now moving into the top 5 territory. So who do you got at 5?
So, I mean, you obviously made your most questionable pick so far with Brandon Sheriff. So I'll give you my most questionable one, and I'll admit it's questionable. But
oh God,
like I said, I do think I ranked him a little bit higher. But again, he is a top 5 guard when he's out there. And I've seen him come back from a major injury already, and he still looked awesome. I'm a little more worried now because he's got multiple major injuries, but I still feel confident he's going to be pretty good. So you're looking at the metrics. Obviously, I can't use last year. I think he's in a pretty solid year next year. I think he's going to be good. I mean, I don't expect him to struggle. Like, he had the injury very early in training camp last year, so he's had plenty of time to recover. And if I was starting my team, I'd still want him pretty high because he's one of the best guards in football. So I went with Brandon Brooks at number 5. Obviously, listen, he's a top 5 guy. I thought it was fair because he's a top 5 talent to put him at the very end of the top 5 because of the injury concern. But I mean, he's 31. He's not, he's not a spring chicken, but he's not super
Spring
old.
chicken. Yeah, that was it for me. Like, I just didn't know where to put him. Same with a lot of these players. Like, I mean, you could arguably put half of these players, like besides like 1 and 2, who I think we probably have the same. You could probably move 3 to 10 pretty easily. I think the talent's pretty across the board, but we'll see. I hope. I mean, for obviously as Eagles fans, we hope he stays healthy and performs like a top 5 guard. But
oh yeah, and
we'll see.
I accept that there's more risk at it because it's multiple injuries, but I still feel confident this guy's going to come in and be a unit. And he's so good when he plays.
Yeah, healthy him, healthy Kelsey, healthy Lane. We can only hope.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting up there in age. They are, but they still look pretty good. I mean, I know I already said with Kelsey, like it wasn't his best season by any measure, but he still made the Pro Bowl team and he still was very solid. It's just he sets the bar too high for himself. Like Jason Kelsey, like you're talking about one of the best centers in the last like 20 years.
Yeah.
So the bar is set really high from.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Brooks is, like we said, we'll see where he goes this year. But so my number 5, a gentleman from the Ohio State University, who I would say probably the best center in the league right now, and is now on a new team in almost at San Diego, in LA.
Oh, call yourself.
Cory Lindsay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we had this conversation last year about how, because I don't think he was in either of our lists, but I remember like he was either off camera or during the episode we were talking about how he's a rising player. He's been in the league for a couple of years now, but I mean he pretty sure he was the All-Pro center for this year.
He was, yeah, first team.
Yeah, so the Justin Herbert desperately needs someone like him to help keep him upright and healthy for his career. So I mean, huge loss on the Packers to not be able to bring him back. But yeah, he's with Hudson and Kelsey, being up there in age. I think Cory Lindsay is, as long as he continues this growth he's having, I think he'll probably end up staying as the top center for the next few seasons. So I haven't heard him mentioned in your list. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's actually funny you mentioned him because I'll go right into my 4. My 4 is Cory Lindsay.
Okay, good.
So no, I agree. I pretty much everything you said I agree with. I like where he's gone. I like him in the Chargers. I know the Chargers are going to like him. They give him a ton of money. He's super consistent. I think he's missed like 13 games in his entire career.
Yeah, he missed 3 games last year, but
he missed 13 games in 7 seasons. So he's been pretty consistent, throughout his career. This was his best year. He made the All-Pro team, like you said. Yeah. He didn't have a single. Didn't give up a single. He gave up 1 sack and didn't have a single penalty.
Yeah, 1 sack and no penalties. That's pretty remarkable, especially for a center, because sometimes they can get called for that since.
Especially
linemen
especially
are coming
on
from
offense.
Everywhere. Yeah,
especially on offense, like the Packers who love to throw. So I piggyback off what you said. I mean, I agree with you. He is the number 1 center in my mind right now. Just like I said with Joe Tooney, I think this is a good mix. This is a great setup for team and player. With him going to the Chargers, he's reuniting with Bulaga, who played with him in Green Bay, and the Chargers need offensive line help. They need to keep Justin Herbert safe, and a smart veteran center like that is a great start. So he was my number 4. How about you?
Yeah, my number 4. You already mentioned. He is now going to be on perennial Super Bowl contender, and hopefully he can help Mr. MVP stay upright. So I have the North Carolina State Wolfpack alum, Mr. Joe Fooney.
I'm actually surprised you had him that high.
I mean, I looked at it as he model consistency, throughout his 5-year career so far, 4-year career, and like he was the only. I mean, that Patriots line's been getting better. I think they have some decent pieces coming around, but he was like their rock, for a bit there, and now that he's going over to KC, Patty Mahomes needs him, And
oh yeah.
I mean, he had 3 penalties, gave up 2 sacks last year, but he played 980 snaps. So, he's in there. He's playing a lot of minutes. You had him at what, 6 or 7?
Yes, I think I had him at 7, I believe.
Yeah. I think he'll do.
No, I had him at 8.
I think he'll do well on the Chiefs offensive line. So, and I mean, he's, like I said, he's been, I think he was, let's see, looks like I had him at a 4 last year too. So,
oh, look at you, Mr. Consistent.
A little bit of consistency here. Yeah. I mean, if I'll put a player where I think they should be, and then if they end up being there, like I said, I put Brandon Sheriff at 6 last year because I thought that's where he should be. And then he was 6 again this year. So,
I'm glad you mentioned him. I don't mean to cut you off, but first off, Joe Fooney is not better than Brandon Sheriff. That's a bad move. That's a bad ranking for sure. Because my number 3 is Brandon Sheriff, correctly where he should be.
Number 3.
You're talking about a 4-time Pro Bowler. He was an All-Pro this past season.
Okay.
The only knock on him is his injury concern, and it's just the last 3 seasons. The first 3 seasons he missed 2 games. Then 18 he missed half the season, and then he played in 11 games in 19 and 13 this past season. So his injury is really the only concern I have for him. But the guy's a stud. Like the Redskins or the football team, I think exceeded expectations. There's not much to that roster. But they played pretty well. The offensive line I thought was strong. I think the run game was pretty good with Antonio Gibson in his first year, and I think had a lot to do with Brandon Sheriff being healthy. I think I see him as the top guard in the league. I don't know what you're smoking that you don't have him this high, and I just between him and Tooney, I definitely think Brandon Sheriff is the better offensive lineman.
I mean, I think it's really just for me the whole injury thing, and then like you said, he proved that he could stay healthy this year. So I don't foresee that being like a downside to him next year if he stays healthy. But I just looked at it as who's going to thrive really well in their situation for next year, and looking at their talent. So I think Tooney is at that 4th spot.
I see what you're saying, and sure. I mean, between Tooney and Sheriff specifically, obviously Tooney's never missed a game, so you would give him the nod in the durability, and Sheriff, he's got a little injury history, but he's really only had like 2 years where he missed like a good amount of time. He's been consistent all the time.
But they were bad injuries, so.
Yeah, but he's dominant when he's played, and I think this season was his best season of his career, and that's after the injuries.
I agree.
So, I mean, if you want to, I think I don't know if you also. I mean, I guess you're sleeping on Sheriff anyway, but I think this was his best year of his career, and at his age, it shows he's still getting better. He's only 28, I think. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from that, because the football team is such a poorly run organization, so they do stupid stuff all the time. So having Brandon Sheriff play on a second franchise tag is just idiotic.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's gonna stay in Washington. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. It'll be interesting to see the contract. That man will get paid. He is a top offensive lineman. So his future is one I'm interested in, because I don't see how he would stay with Washington long term. It's a bad organization, and guys that get to the second franchise tag rarely get an extension with that team.
Yes, but I feel like of all the positions beyond quarterback, I think the ones you want to have secured in the long term are talented linemen.
I agree with you. That's why they're a poor run organization that should sign him. Like the fact that you have this guy on a 1-year franchise deal twice now is idiotic. You should have locked him up and signed him by now.
Yeah, I mean, if you rearrange the Washington football team's abbreviation WFT, you get WTF, and that's what a lot of times they do, because you're scratching your head. Yeah. Why did they make that decision? But like I've said a couple times on other episodes, I think they have the makings of a more competitive team. I think Fitzpatrick is going to be decent for them. I like their defense a lot. Antonio Gibson's a nice young running back. They have some good receivers. It's weird to say, but Washington's like they might be the favorites to win the NFC East. Who knows? But
we'll see. I'm not going to start blowing them smoke, because they're a poor run organization.
I mean, this might be. I mean, this division is the biggest. I've never been so unsure of who's going to come out on top, because like like we've said, not to get off topic, but the Giants could come out of nowhere and surprise. The Cowboys could stay healthy and actually perform. The Washington could do well. The Eagles could surprise and actually, like, Jalen Hurts could be a MVP candidate. Like, we literally have no idea what's going to happen. So, like I'm not. I don't know if he's number 3, but 4, 5, 6 is where I would put Sheriff.
Okay, well, fair enough. Just gonna throw this out there: the guy who your number 3 is, who I'm assuming is your number 3, he was second team All Pro behind Brendan Sheriff last year. So just All Pro is a good metric. I mean, yeah, but you go ahead, tell me something.
All right. Well, you seem to love your Pro Football Focus stats and numbers. Okay. So I'll give you one for my number 3 interior offensive lineman, who is a guard. This gentleman, first of all, has very nice facial hair, very, very caveman-esque. According to PFF, he is the highest graded pass blocking guard of the past season. He put up an 80 score for pass blocking or higher in 5 straight seasons.
Not bad.
And it's topped 85 each year since 2017. And he gave up a sack in week 1 and then hasn't given up. So he gave up 1 sack all year, and it was in week 1. So I have, let me bring up his college because I got to give them representation here. From the Nevada Wolfpack. Oh, Joel.
I was cute. I like that.
Joel Pietonio of the Cleveland Browns. So we have 2 Brownies on this list. I think he deserves to be this high because of arguably the best pass blocking guard, one of the best pass blocking linemen in the league right now, which is funny because the Browns are insane as a running team. So he's also very good at run blocking if the team is getting that much push, getting that much. If Hunt and Chubb are having these many openings, these many lanes, getting all these rushing yards, he's doing it both. If you two-way players like that are, a lot of times you'll see linemen are like excel at some of them are like really good run blockers. Some of them are really good at getting out on pulls for screens and stuff or sweeps or whatever. Some of them are only really good at pass blocking and staying still.
Yeah.
Joel is really good at both, well-rounded offensive lineman, which, diamond in the rough, honestly, for a guard too. So I think he deserves that 3 spot. I could see why you might have him a little lower, but those PFF numbers don't lie. So
yeah, I do like coming out. I mean, I ranked him pretty high on my list, and his pass blocking is really impressive because I know that there was a time they were moving him to left tackle to take Joe Thomas's spot, which you constantly see tackles get bumped inside, the short arm guys.
Why do you think Baker had a better season? He had time to throw the ball.
I agree. But you never see inside guys move outside, and that was impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, listen, the Bitonio one I can live with. I think the Tooney ranking is too high. I think that's your biggest blunder. I think Sheriff was your biggest blunder. You're pretty much guaranteed a blunder every time we do these rankings. Sheriff was definitely your blunder this week, and Tooney was right behind. I think you're just overvaluating Tooney a little bit. I say
7 to 10 is a spot, and then 4 to 6, and then top 3. So 4 to 6, I had Tooney at 4, Sheriff at 6. I could flip them. It's not a big deal, but I'm just saying going into this year, that's how I viewed it. I had Tooney a slight edge. That's all it is.
Fair enough. Well, so get to my top 2. I have a feeling that we both have the same top 2, unless you have another surprise for me.
I mean, as much as I hate one of the teams that this guy plays for, I think we both have the same. So
yeah, I would agree with you there. So all right, well, my number 2, he is on that team that we don't like. So it's always stinks having to, give him his due, but he has been awesome since he's entered the league. He this year you could say was his worst year of his career, only really because of the injuries. He only played 10 games.
2. That says a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say this guy's an injury concern. The 6 years before this year, he missed 2 games in 6 seasons. So the guy can have 1 injury season, and I'm not worried about it. And you know what? when he wasn't out there, it showed. It showed. And
yep.
Who really showed was, man, Zeke struggled a lot.
It's almost like I was saying that all last year when we had our running back rankings, that line is like Zeke is a product of that line, but you guys didn't want to believe it.
Well, I think that's unfair. I think that's unfair because any running back is a product of their line. You need a good line to have a good running back. I know what Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt wouldn't be as good if they didn't play behind that line.
This is true.
So he's a 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro. He has been like, him, Brooks, our number one, who we'll get to later.
Yeah.
They've been the best interior offensive lineman for years now. So there's really no change in this. I think he's been number two, honestly, till our number one guy came in. He was probably Zach Martin was probably the best guard of football until our number one guy kind of came around. But Zach Martin was my number two. I'm assuming you probably also have that.
Yeah, number two, I had the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Zach Martin.
Member of the all 2010s team too, that the Hall of Fame did. I didn't realize that until now.
Yeah. You can't deny the talent. I mean, this year he only had one penalty, one sack allowed. A lot of our linemen are from the 2014 draft class. At least my list, quite a few.
This is a strong year.
But yeah,
he was another guy drafted in the first round. Actually, remember. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe it was the year Manziel was coming out and everyone was losing their mind. The Cowboys were going to take Manziel. And I think they ended up.
Loved that.
I know, me too. But I think they wised up. Someone there got Jerry Jones to relax and told him to take this stud instead. Yeah. They ended up with Zach Martin instead, which is pretty smart. But
I mean, yeah. So I'm looking at six. It hurts to say. 6-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
4-time All-Pro. Hall of Fame for the all 2010s decade team. Yeah, dude's a monster. I hate to admit it, but last year was the only year he didn't make Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and I mean,
he still had a pretty good year. I mean, he ranked 91.3 overall PFF grade. So,
yeah.
like his one bad year is still better than 95% of the league. That's insane.
You're good when you had a bad year and we still wouldn't even think about bumping him any lower than 2.
Yeah.
There was no way I was doing this list and he was going to be any lower than 2. And he was coming off his worst season of his career. It didn't matter. I still know how good this guy is. I know what he's going to do. And it really is no injury concern. He's been solid up until last season. So
yeah, Cowboys had a abysmal. There wasn't as bad as the Eagles' offensive line issues, but they had some pretty bad offensive line issues themselves.
Yeah.
So that being said, ironically, I'm assuming your number one and my number one also played for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in college.
It's true. They just churn offensive linemen.
Well, yeah. I mean, he probably went right in because he was the 2018 draft class. I didn't realize he was taking 6 overall in the first round. That's really high for a guard.
But where have you been the whole episode? I've been just preaching about this. How the interior offensive linemen are drafted higher.
But we say high, I think like to the early teens, not like 6 for a guard.
I definitely said this when we started, and you completely ignored me.
I usually don't listen to you.
Oh, fair enough. Well, that's why you still have idiotic opinions because you're not listening to the free masterclass that you're enjoying every week.
So Tim, weighing in at 330 pounds at 6'5", born in 96. Our number one interior offensive lineman is
Mr. Quinton Nelson. He is honestly he's a 3-time All-Pro. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He hasn't missed a single game.
He played for 3 years.
I know. This guy came in and he was dominant right from the get-go. Just continued to perfect his craft.
Yeah.
He is, I mean, we just did interior defensive lineman. He is Aaron Donald. He's in that point now. He's
pretty much
so much. He is by far the best player in his position group. And he's also a top 5, top 10 player in the NFL.
Yeah.
Guy's an absolute stud. There's, the guy doesn't miss games. He just continues to be awesome. He's only been awesome. There's no reason to not think he won't be awesome next year. This is part of why I think Carson Wentz is going to succeed because he's playing behind an offensive line that has superstars like Quinton Nelson on it. It's funny because we were talking about this Joe Pietonio. I heard rumors because what's his face? Costanzo, the left tackle from the Colts retired. I heard rumors that they were thinking of putting Nelson at left tackle. So, I mean, again, it's the same thing with Bitonio. You never see guys go from inside to outside.
Yeah.
He's maybe the only guy I think could do it. I don't know. It's also like, taking the best guard in the league, maybe to doing something, maybe, who knows if he's going to make the transition. So it's something to keep an eye on. But honestly, that's the only thing that's going to keep this guy from being number one interior offensive lineman when we do these rankings every year is if he moves to the tackle.
Yeah. I mean, all the things you said are on the dot. I mean, I would say if any player who, plays as well as he does, as consistently as he does at such a high level, if any player who wasn't a quarterback or skill player was going to win MVP, like he would be one of them.
Yeah.
I don't to my knowledge, there has never been an offensive lineman to win MVP. It wouldn't really make sense.
There's absolutely no way.
But if it ever was going to happen in the next few years, he would definitely be one of the, potential nominees for that. But
I said this earlier when we were talking about Ryan Kelly. I was like, the Colts offense is one that looks pretty good. Like it goes back to there wasn't a mobile quarterback with Philip Rivers there. And then it's like he had an immobile veteran quarterback and he also had a rookie running back, and they both excelled, even though, you're a quarterback that can't get out of, pressure, and you got to keep the pocket clean from. And then a rookie running back who you would assume is going to struggle just being a rookie. And they both had very successful seasons. And the offensive line and Quinton Nelson, leading that offensive line was a lot to do with that.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how that Colts season plays out this year because, like you said, pretty talented players on the line. See what Carson Wentz can do. Still weird to say that, but
yeah, it is interesting. The Quinton Nelson, a left tackle, thing is interesting just because they still haven't gotten a left tackle. So it's like that could be a problem for them. That's why I'm thinking maybe it will happen because your guy retired. Like they haven't made any effort to replace him. I don't know if I don't remember them getting any tackles in the draft, and I know they didn't sign anyone free agency. So maybe this is their plan all along, is to bump him out there. And if that happens, it'd be interesting to see.
I think if I'm the Colts, I want to keep him at guard because I feel like oftentimes it's more seamless to move a tackle to guard than it is to move a guard to tackle. But I mean, we saw even with Jason Peterson isn't the best example, but he went from tackle to guard this year and did not do it. So some players can't transition. I wouldn't doubt that he'd be able to do it. I mean, he's 6'5", 330. Like, it's not like he's a small guard going to tackle. Like, he's got the height and the weight for it. But we'll see. I mean, if he moves the tackle and plays at tackle for 16 games, then he'll be in our top 10 offensive tackles list.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he will. Huh?
So,
hey, I mean, I think I pretty much guarantee right now that the Colts are going to pick up that 5th-year option. So he's 2 years away from free agency.
He'll get paid.
Maybe not a bad time to switch to left tackle and get a bigger contract.
Yeah, no, he'll get paid. But yeah. I think that's a good wrap up on this episode. Let me just double check. So I had Jason Kelsey, Rodney Hudson, and Ryan Kelly were on my list last year who didn't make it this time around, but instead I had Wyatt Teller, Ali Marpitt, Cory Lindsay, and I think that's it. Joe Pietonio wasn't on my list last year. Wow, and he went all the way up to 3. Oh no, he was 9. I lied.
Oh. I was gonna say I had him at 8. You were just late to the party like you always are.
Last year I had Nelson Martin 1-2, Kelsey, Tooney 3-4. David Castro of the Steelers, he had a down year this year.
Yeah.
Brandon Sheriff at 6, Rodney Hudson, Ryan Kelly, Joe Bitonio, Rogers, Saffold at 10. So some players moved up, some moved back, and then I had the 2 that stayed the same. But like we were saying,
mine was similar to you on that.
Nice fusion of younger players coming in. 2014 draft class was pretty well represented, and we're starting to see. I don't know if it's a product of what's being produced through college, but we're seeing more interior offensive linemen being taken earlier in the first. Like they used to never be taken in the first round at all, because you would want to specialize getting a tackle, or a skill player in the first round, or an edge rusher or whatever. So it'll be, I mean, if more talent like Quinton Nelson is there, where teams are like, we can't pass up a guard this talented, we'll continue to see more of that. So
yeah,
but,
it's definitely a position in a good spot. They got a lot of young talent,
yeah,
and established guys, and the value for them has never been higher. So I mean, look at Cory Lindsay signed a huge. Look at Joe Tooney. Both of them signed huge deals in the offseason. And I honestly think both of them were, I think it was a perfect mix of, you paid a lot of money, but that was a great move for the team. And I think the players are going to excel in their new role.
I agree.
So, all right. Well, it's been a delight.
It always is. I mean, we had an Eagle. We always like to have an Eagle on the list. So,
yeah, that's true.
Well, and not too much bias, maybe a little bit from Tim, but.
I mean, the only Eagle that makes our list, and he's also didn't even play a game last year, so that tells you where the Eagles are.
Yeah, we'll see where everyone goes. So health is always a big concern for any player, but more so the offensive line, because you really can tell either how talented they are or how important they are to that team. Just to see what happens. Like look at the Cowboys, look at teams that lost talent and they couldn't do anything. Like couldn't keep their quarterback upright, whatever it may be. So it's never really a super hyped up position, but offensive line, defensive line, they're some of the trenches are the most important part besides quarterback to a team. So
yeah.
But all right, I think that caps it off. We will catch everyone next time.